lust. A word that carries weight, guilt, and shame for many believers. Yet it's a struggle that even the chosen ones secretly battle with. Why is it that those deeply rooted in faith still find themselves wrestling with this sin? If you have ever felt this way, know that you are not alone. Today, we're going to dive deep into the 5 reasons why even God's chosen ones face this secret struggle and how to overcome it. Let's journey together as we uncover the truth and find the freedom Christ offers. Reason number 1, the enemy targets the anointed. One of the most profound truths in spiritual warfare is that the enemy doesn't waste his energy on those who aren't a threat. Satan targets those chosen by God because he knows their potential to make a massive impact. Lust becomes one of his most powerful weapons, strategically designed to weaken the anointed. It's not just about making you stumble. It's about tarnishing your testimony, weakening your influence, and causing others to question your faith. Satan knows that when a chosen one falls, it can ripple through families, churches, and communities. Consider King David, a man after God's own heart, who fell into the trap of lust and committed adultery with Bathsheba. David was anointed, called and chosen, but he was also human. The enemy exploited his weakness, and David's story reminds us that the battle is real, even for the anointed. Despite his deep connection with God, David allowed a moment of weakness to unravel his integrity. Yet, even in his darkest moment, he sought God's forgiveness and restoration. This teaches us that while chosen ones may fall, their story doesn't end there. God's grace can redeem and restore those who turn back to Him. When the enemy sees your purpose, he launches attacks to derail you. Acknowledge your calling and know that resistance often means you're on the right path. God's grace is sufficient to carry you through any battle. Remember that failure isn't final, and God's love remains unshaken despite our struggles. Use your battles as testimonies of how God's strength is made perfect in your weakness. Reason number 2, the flesh is weak. Jesus himself warned in Matthew chapter 26, verse 41, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." No matter how spiritually mature or chosen you are, the human flesh remains vulnerable. The world bombards us with temptations through media, relationships, and even past experiences. The reality is that our human nature is inherently flawed, and without constant vigilance and surrender to God, we can easily fall into the snares of lust. Even mature Christians who have walked with the Lord for years are not immune. Sometimes the very confidence we build in our spiritual journey can make us lower our guard. We might think we are strong enough to handle temptations, but that false sense of security can lead to devastating consequences. The Bible tells us to be alert and of sober mind because the enemy prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Paul, the apostle who penned most of the New Testament, confessed his own struggle when he said, "For I do not do the good I want, but the evil I do not want is what I keep on doing." If Paul struggled, it's no wonder we do too. This admission from one of the greatest apostles reassures us that even those who are close to God face temptations. It's not about being perfect, but about recognizing our human weaknesses and relying on God's strength to overcome them. God understands your struggle. He doesn't condemn you for being tempted, but He provides a way out. When the flesh feels weak, lean into God's strength and remember His promise to make a way of escape. Never be too proud to seek help, whether through prayer, accountability, or community support. Remember, resisting temptation is not just a personal battle. It's a collective effort of believers helping each other stay strong in faith. Reason number 3, unresolved wounds and trauma. Sometimes lust isn't just a sinful desire, it's a coping mechanism for unresolved pain. Chosen ones often carry deep wounds from betrayal, rejection, or past relationships. Lust becomes an escape from the void they feel inside, creating a temporary sense of comfort or distraction from the pain that lingers within. But this comfort is fleeting, leaving behind guilt and a sense of spiritual defeat. Lust feeds on the emptiness and unhealed areas of our lives, making it essential to confront the core issues rather than just the symptoms. Many believers fall into the trap of suppressing their pain, thinking that ignoring it will make it disappear. Yet, the more we suppress, the stronger the roots of lust grow. Sometimes, the unresolved wounds from childhood trauma, broken relationships, or deep-seated insecurities manifest as struggles with lust. It becomes a pattern, a way to numb the ache that words alone cannot heal. Healing requires going beyond surface repentance and addressing the root causes. It means acknowledging the hurt, seeking help, and surrendering the pain to God. David cried out in Psalm chapter 51, verse 10, "Create in me a clean heart, O God," because he knew that true healing had to start from within. He understood that transformation was more than just resisting temptation. It was about allowing God to heal the broken places that made him vulnerable to sin. Take your wounds to the cross. Let God's love fill the empty places where lust tries to take root. Pray for healing and allow His Spirit to renew your mind and restore your soul. Seek wise counsel, find community support, and remember that healing is a process, one that God walks with you every step of the way. Reason number 4, spiritual pride and isolation. Being chosen by God can sometimes lead to spiritual pride, where believers feel immune to temptation. This mindset isolates them from accountability and support. They may start to believe that their calling somehow makes them invincible. But this false sense of security becomes a breeding ground for hidden struggles. When they fall, shame compounds their struggle, and they retreat even deeper into isolation, afraid to admit their weaknesses or failures. The enemy thrives in this isolation, whispering lies that convince them they are beyond redemption or that confessing their struggles will destroy their reputation. This cycle of pride and isolation can be devastating as it cuts off the support system that God intended to strengthen and encourage us. We must remember that humility before God and others keeps us grounded and accountable. The Bible warns in Proverbs 16, verse 18, "Pride goes before destruction," and the fall that follows pride is often more destructive than the sin itself. Being chosen does not mean being perfect. It means relying on God's grace daily, acknowledging our human frailty, and never losing sight of the fact that we are constantly in need of His mercy. Break the chains of isolation. Surround yourself with godly mentors and prayer partners who can uplift you in moments of weakness. Humble yourself before God and admit your need for His strength. Vulnerability before trustworthy friends and mentors is not a sign of weakness, but of wisdom and maturity. God uses community to help us grow and keep us accountable, and sharing your burdens can lighten the load and bring healing to your heart. Reason number 5, misunderstanding grace. Some chosen ones fall into the trap of believing that grace gives them permission to live in sin. They forget that grace empowers transformation, not complacency. Paul asked in Romans chapter 6, verse 1 and 2, "Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? Certainly not. Grace calls us higher, not deeper into sin." Lust thrives when grace is misunderstood and misapplied. Instead of seeing grace as a license to indulge, it should be viewed as a call to rise above the flesh and pursue righteousness. The enemy knows that when grace is twisted, it becomes a snare rather than a freedom. Misunderstanding grace leads believers to rationalize their actions rather than seek true repentance. We must remember that grace was never meant to be an excuse for weakness, but a pathway to spiritual strength and renewal. Embracing grace means allowing it to change us from the inside out, transforming our desires and leading us away from the pull of lust. It's essential to view grace not just as forgiveness, but as divine empowerment to live victoriously over sin. Let grace be the force that propels us toward purity, guiding our hearts and minds to seek holiness in every aspect of our lives. Embrace grace as a gift that propels you toward holiness. Let it be your motivation to live a pure life, knowing that you are called to be holy as God is holy. Accept grace as a transformative power that renews your heart, strengthens your spirit, and guides you to walk in alignment with God. Beloved, the struggle with lust does not define your worth or calling. Remember that even the most anointed and chosen can fall, but God's mercy is truly abundant and never-ending. He sees your struggles, your heartache, and your desire to do what is right. You are not alone in this battle. Surrender your fight to Him daily, allowing His love and strength to fill the places where temptation creeps in. Pray for the courage to overcome, seek accountability from those who can walk with you, and embrace the grace that only God can provide. Let His transforming power renew your mind and restore your spirit, no matter how many times you may have fallen before. Take heart, knowing that every effort you make towards healing and purity brings you closer to God's presence and His divine purpose for your life. Never underestimate the power of prayer and perseverance, for God's love never fails. Stay committed to seeking His guidance and trusting in His promises, as He will never abandon those who seek His face. Know that every step towards healing and purity is a step closer to Him. If you found this message helpful, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support this channel. Help spread the word so that others can also find encouragement and hope, knowing that they too can overcome their struggles with God's help.